Now this is a subject I wanted to talk about on this channel for the longest time. What if a Metroid was in the Pokemon universe? What type would it be? What abilities would it have? What stats would it use? It's something I've always thought about in my head, but now that I got some free time, I thought this would be a cool little interesting subject for today's discussion. And just to clear up some confusion, we're going to be talking about the SR3D8 variant of the Metroids. No Zebus, no Talon 4, Dark Aether, Phazon Metroids. Those will probably be its own thing. But with that being said, let's cue up that video and roll out that intro. Now traditionally in the Pokemon series, Pokemon normally have either no evolutionary change or 2 evolutionary change, and that's going to be a slight problem for the Metroid franchise because with Metroids, there is at least 7 evolutionary changes that the Metroid can go through, and that doesn't really conform with the Pokemon formula. However, in the Pokemon franchise, since the evolutionary changes tend to be kind of sporadic sometimes, similar to how Magikarp can turn to Gyarados having like a huge change of evolutionary stance, I believe that if we were to add Metroids into the Pokemon universe, the evolutionary change won't be exactly the same. The way I see it, it would be the mature larval Metroid turning into a Gamma Metroid, then turning into an Omega Metroid. Essentially, the Metroid would be skipping like at least half of its evolutionary chain, but it kind of makes sense to me. In the Metroid series, the evolutionary chain tends to be nice, slow, and consistent, but if you were adding the Pokemon series, it's got to be a little bit more dynamic and sporadic. So cutting at least half the evolutionary chain to make it look like this, to me, it kind of makes sense in the Pokemon franchise. Now, what about the Metroid's typing? The Metroids aren't really known for having that many weaknesses. The main weakness most people tend to know is the weakness to ice. You know, low temperatures, extreme cold temperatures. However, the later stages of the Metroid life cycle tend to remove this kind of weakness. In general, a typing that doesn't have that many weaknesses but ice, the only one thing really comes to my mind, dragon typing. And with the Metroids looking kind of like dragons in their later stages like the Omega Metroid, it kind of makes sense to me. A powerful typing, only weak to the cold as well as itself and fairy, but you know, there's gotta be some balance. But I don't think the Metroids would be purely dragon typing. Due to some of the abilities we see the Metroids use, like a lot of electricity, I think it makes sense for the Metroids to be Dragon Electric. We do see the Metroids use a lot of electricity, and it kind of makes sense. But then you're probably wondering, Dragon Electric, does that mean the Metroids would be weak to ground? We don't see that in the games, right? That's when we cut to abilities. In the Pokemon series, Pokemon tend to only have one ability, but they have access to 3 possible abilities based on how you catch them, how they're raised, so on and so forth. So I want to give the Metroids 3 possible abilities. The first ability is kind of obvious, Levitate. Levitate's an ability that lets a Pokemon float around without the need of being a flying type, and that makes the most sense for the Metroids. And with the Metroids being Dragon Electric, the Levitate will remove the weakness to ground typing, which would make the Metroids a lot more durable and a lot more closer to the actual Metroid series. But that's the first ability. There's also a second ability I want to talk about, Thick Fat. Now in the Metroid canon, it's kind of contradictory, but it's been stated before that as the Metroids go on with their evolutionary cycle, they begin to lose their weakness to ice, they get more resistant towards it. So I think the ability Thick Fat as a hidden ability would be a pretty cool concept. Thick Fat will essentially just weaken the effects of ice and fire type moves, and that would be a pretty cool callback to the Metroid franchise. But because, you know, for balancing sake, giving a dragon type a resistance to actual ice typing would kind of be a little bit overpowered, that's why I would assume it would be a hidden ability, but still be an ability just to make reference to the Metroid franchise. And for the second ability, I was thinking about either giving the Metroids Tough Claw or Strong Jaw, but I think Strong Jaw makes the most sense. As we've seen in the Metroid franchise, the Metroids have a really strong jaw. Not even Ridley can break free of a Queen Metroid, and he had trouble with the Baby Metroid. The Baby Metroid! So that shows that the Metroids have a very strong grip when it comes to their talons near their mouths. So I think Strong Jaw will work the most. And Strong Jaw is an ability that just increases the power of fighting type moves. Finally, let's talk about the Metroid's moveset now. Now, I've been thinking a lot about the Metroid moveset. For starters, with all the electrical based attacks we see the Metroids use in the games, it would make a lot of sense to be a lot of electric type moves in their moveset. Moves like Charge Beam, Discharge, Spark, Thunder Wave, Zap Cannons. Also, with their ability Strong Jaw, they gotta have some biting type moves. Some moves like Bite, Crunch, and obviously Thunder Fang, maybe Poison and Fire Fang just for some variety. We see the Metroid use some poison type moves also, so moves like Acid or Acid Spray would fit well also. And due to the Metroid's main ability of absorbing Life Force, it kinda makes sense to give them moves like Absorb, Giga Drain, Leech Life for sure, and maybe Bug Bite, you know, the whole theme of like biting an opponent, Bug Bite. And you know, with their bug type appearance, maybe moves like X Scissor, Lunge would probably work. Also, with the proposed idea of being a dragon type, I propose moves like Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, Dragon Rush, Dual Chop, which is something I didn't even know was a dragon type for a while, Dragon Tail, and obviously the obligatory Draco Meteor. Also, another thing I was thinking about is giving the Metroid some noise-based attacks. You know, with the Metroid signature screeching. Yeah, that one. It kind of makes sense to give the Metroids some noise-based moves. Moves like Screech or Bug Buzz, Disarming Voice, Hyper Voice, and maybe Supersonic? The Metroid scream does give me shivers down my spine, so I do think moves like Screech would probably work a lot. And obviously, since it's going to be a strong Pokemon, I would assume it'll have moves like probably Hyper Beam or maybe Flamethrower. But for the most part, it's going to be mainly Dragon type, Electric type, and Bug type moves, with occasional Poison or Fire type move just to keep in line with the Metroid franchise. Now let's talk about the Pokemon stats. I am no Pokemon expert in the meta whatsoever, so I don't know if this is going to be balanced. I don't know if this is going to be fair, so I'm only going to be talking about the Omega Metroid stats, since I don't know how to balance it between 3 stages. So my idea for the Omega Metroid, make it a pseudo-legendary. Make the whole line of the Metroid pseudo-legendaries, because I might be slightly biased, but I believe the Metroids are that durable enough, that strong enough to actually warrant being pseudo-legendaries. So when it comes to the stats, I believe the Metroids would have 100 HP, 115 attack, 110 defense, 115 special attack, 110 special defense, and 60 speed. When you add all that, it's going to be 600 points, which is what makes a pseudo-legendary. And the reason I chose these sort of stats were because, for the most part, the Metroids overall are pretty dangerous. They're really offensively powerful, while at the same time being extremely defensively capable of taking damage. They're not the fastest, so that's why I put their speed at 60. And I did put a little bit more emphasis on attack than defense, because the Metroids do deal a lot of damage, but if you just outmove them a little bit, their defense does slowly crumble. But that's not the end of it, because in the Metroid lore, only a small, specific few amount of Metroids under the right circumstance with the right qualities can actually go above an Omega Metroid. They can become a Queen Metroid, and with that kind of characteristic behind this form in mind, I think it'll be pretty cool to give the Metroids a Mega form. Give them a Metroidite and it'll become the Queen Metroid. I think that's pretty cool, with Mega forms being a very rare form that only certain Pokemon can take under specific requirements. That'll be a cool callback to the Metroid franchise, with the Queen Metroid being a rare form that only a few Metroids can have. Obviously, the requirements are different. With Mega forms, you gotta have a strong bond with your trainer and Pokemon. And in Metroid, you just gotta be under the right circumstances and environments and all that sort of stuff. But I think it'll be a cool thing nonetheless. And another thing I want to add on is the Metroid Shiny form. Every single Pokemon in the Pokemon franchise has their own shiny forms, just an altered variant of color. Some of them look pretty cool, some of them look kinda meh, but I believe the Metroid should have a color scheme similar to the Komatos from the Kid Icarus series. You know, just another way to pay tribute to another game franchise out there. The Komatos blue and pink would be a cool contrast against the Metroid's red and green. So I kinda like how this color scheme actually looks. But hey, what do you guys think? Do you actually like what I did about trying to figure out the Metroid's typing, its stats, moveset, abilities, and all that sort of stuff? Or maybe you have your own opinions over how it should be made. I like to hear your guys' opinions because it just helps me get a solid idea over what you guys think and how to improve in the future videos. I had a lot of fun making this specific video, you know, the Metroid trainer talking about how to make a Metroid into a Pokemon and all that sort of stuff. It's something I've always wanted to do, and it's something I plan on doing for other creatures in the Metroid franchise. Heck, there's another creature out there that a lot of people tend to compare with Pokemon, mostly because of one appearance. So maybe that could be something I can make in the future. If you guys have other opinions over what other creatures could be made into Pokemon, feel free to tell me and I'll look into it. That being said, I'm the Metroid Trainer. I hope you like, subscribe, and continue on watching these videos because I enjoy making them, and I'll be seeing you next time.